Please welcome Professor Dr. Virginia Dignum, Wallenberg Chair, Professor Responsible Artificial Intelligence, Umeå University, Sweden, for an invited talk, Beyond Hype and Fear, Responsible AI for Societal Good. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure and my honor to be here. And thank you all for inviting me to be here today. Indeed, I'm going to talk about responsible AI and about the world where we are today, in which the expectations and the fear and the hype and all the conjuncture is, sorry? No, I think it's okay, yeah? You can hear me? Yeah, good. No, that's fine. I stay here. Good, no problem. So talking about AI in a time in which we are living all this hype and elevated expectations, and at the same time increasingly understanding and experiencing the dangers and the problems and the harms that AI can cause, it becomes not so much anymore a technical discussion, but it needs to become a much more political and societal discussion. I'm an engineer, like many of you, but the last few years, last 10 years, I have been working more and more in this interaction between technology and society. We just heard Professor Reddy referring to the users or the people a bit as being the bug in the system. So this technology that we have works wonderfully, and then people don't understand it, or society doesn't accept it. And we tend to talk about people, about society, from an engineering perspective, very much like the bug in the system, something that we need to solve. I like to talk about people as the feature in the system, what we really want to keep and to maintain, and therefore we need to make our technology adapt and support people, and not just try to change people to the technology that we have. So I start with a short slide, which, if you don't want to listen to anything else, this slide is kind of a takeaway of what I want to say. It is important to realize that AI, like any other technology, is not neutral. It comes with choices, it comes with values, it impacts some ways good, it impacts some ways bad. But technology is never neutral, and we need to talk about technology as a matter of choices, a matter of expectations, a matter of options, and therefore a matter of power. Who decides is the one who creates the technology the way it is. AI can advance human dignity, but at the same time, it can also undermine it. It always embodies our choices. We build AI, AI doesn't happen to us, and therefore the choices that we as a society make in what we accept, in what we don't accept, the way we go, the way we don't go, are determine how AI is. At the same time, if we want to govern or to regulate this type of systems, at the end of the day what we are saying is that we want to govern ourselves. We cannot really just talk about AI without the social context in which it is involved. And also maybe for engineers and definitely for students, it is also important to see that the AI we have today is not inevitable, but it's also not the end. We can talk about foundation models and the way we are developing AI today as being the top of what we have, and it is true, it's what we have now, but it is not necessarily what we will have in 5 years or in 10 years or in 20 years. So we need to move and dare to move beyond what we have now and really look at what would be the most suitable ways to go with. And what we have now and how we learn to speak about AI and to understand AI as an impactful thing in the world, and also the way that our politicians are talking about AI, is this idea that to get better AI, we need more, and more is better. We need more data. We need more computational power. We need more powerful algorithms. And all this idea is leading and driving the way we are looking at AI today. And again, I say, it doesn't really need to be the way that we need to go in AI. And this may be not necessarily the way that really benefits all of us. Let's talk about data availability. This is how AI sees the world. Is the way, it's an image from the Mozilla Internet Foundation. It's from one of the reports, I believe, in 2022. If anything, today the world is probably even more skewed than in that image. But more data, if we don't take equity, if we don't take diversity, if we don't take inclusion seriously, will not improve this image of the world. It is also very, very, very important to remember that data is not reality. Like any other technology, any other artifact, we build data. Data is constructed by us, is constructed by the decisions that we make on where to collect, what to collect, how to collect, who is involved, and all these choices determines the data that we have. If we don't have sensors for warmth, we'll not have information about warmth in this room. If we don't have sensors for movement, we'll not have information about that. If we don't collect the information about, I don't know, the color of our hairs, we will not have that information. So we construct data, and this data that we construct becomes, in a sense, the reality of where an AI model works. Because AI models don't exist in the world, they only see the data as the reality that they treat. Now looking at computing power, and it is fortunately, I would say, not anymore a surprise, which was 10 years ago, the amount of energy that goes into these systems and the amount of electricity that we need to run our data centers, to run our computational centers. It is not just energy. More and more we are aware of the costs in terms of water, in terms of hard metals, in all this type of natural resources. But it's also important to look at it from a matter of investment. And especially when we talk about public investment, investment that governments are putting in AI is investment that is not going somewhere else. They only have a limited type of budget. If everything goes into AI, then is choice being made, where is this investment not going? And if we take, and unfortunately I see that with many, many governments around the world, if we take this idea of AI first, we just need to have AI and AI will solve all our problems, without asking ourselves before taking the AI first approach, that we just implement AI and then we'll see, we don't ask ourselves why, what for, then we are risking to using investments that are limited in not necessarily the ways that really contribute to the development of the society. So before we take an AI first approach, we really need to move to what we call the question zero, which is asking us, why are we going to implement AI for this or for that, or in this direction, or develop this center or this type of algorithms. So why is a very important question. Is, by the way, a question that we engineers don't know how to answer. We know how to solve problems. We don't know how to ask ourselves, why is this a problem? What is this a problem for? Who is impacted by this problem? To ask these why questions, we really need to integrate other disciplines. We need humanities, we need the social science, and therefore is also something I often say, AI is not anymore a technology. It is a social technical artifact, is something which requires a multidisciplinary approach to it. And then finally, the algorithmic power. We do know all the problems, all the issues that come with algorithms, and that's becoming more and more an issue. Also, we know, but we kind of try to forget that these algorithms are not as artificial as we hope. They don't exist with a huge amount of people, not only us that develop them and train them and model them, but also the people, the huge amount of people that are needed to curate the data, maintain the data, clean the data, all the data aspects, and more all these people that are curating and maintaining and managing the output of the very large AI systems that we have. We just recently, I think a week ago or two, there was news about the Waymo self-driving cars. They are not as artificial and self-driving as you think. There is a whole army of people in the Philippines which more or less with a joystick are trying to fix the issues that real time, and so they are there real time, trying to fix the issues that the car cannot do by itself. So it is not as artificial as we say. It's definitely not as intelligent as we make it. Intelligence is much broader than what we are able to build into these systems. But more important, we need to think that the impact of these systems means our responsibility. The system is never responsible for nothing. We who design, we implement, who govern, who maintain, who use these systems, we need to understand what is our responsibility. And it is hard because it is something much bigger, or at least in the stories that we are led to believe, it's something which comes above us, and it's hard to think about what this responsibility it is. And so in the last minutes that I have, I want to go a little bit into that. How can we be responsible? The first one starts to understand, and this is a slide that I usually use for people in governments, policymakers, people who are trying to decide about using AI, and they are mostly fed, what they know about AI is what the media tells them. And the media tells them what big tech wants them to believe. The first thing is to understand AI doesn't happen to us. AI is not the weather. It's something that we build, it's something that we control, it's something that is based on our decisions. If we cannot control it, the first question we have to ask is, why are we putting into existence something that we cannot control? So it doesn't happen to us, it is designed. The outcomes of AI are shaped by our design choices, by the data that we use, by the incentives that we put, both in the systems, the technical incentives, but also the societal incentives to use it, and by the governance that we put or we don't put into these systems. The current approach is not necessarily the best, is not inevitable. There are other ways to address AI than through large language model or foundation model, so it's not necessarily the best option to all our solutions. Also, AI doesn't exist in a vacuum. Like I say, it's not just a technology, it's this social technical ecosystem in which the choices are made and in which the questions need to be asked, starting by the question, why are we using this? Why are we developing it this way or another? What are the benefits? Who is going to be benefited and who is going to be harmed by it? So the core question around the whole issue is one of governance, deciding who can decide, what can be decided, by what rules, and in which interests is it going to be. We build AI. We people build AI. And even in a future in which AI is going to build itself, it's still a design option from us. So the question is not so much what is AI or what is not AI. We are designing these systems, and especially we in engineer, we in computer science. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, what do we want these systems to be? We are making them, we have the choice, we have the options, so what do we want? And there are many questions here, and I will just tell you a couple of them. The first one is the issue of human likeness. Why do we want these systems to look like humans? Firstly, what does it mean to look like a human? Is to speak like a human, move like a human, look like me, like you, is there an average human that we want to compare AI with? And why do we need that? my dishwasher washes the dishes perfectly and by itself, and it starts whenever it's most appropriate for the electricity consumption. It doesn't need to look like a person. So why do we need human likeness? When do we need human likeness? And what for is this relevant? And how are we going to implement it? Another question, and if you go into the people which work in the AI ethics, the responsible AI, they will always say that this is a no-go, never, we don't want human-like AI, never and whatever, forgetting that we are at the very essence of AI is about understanding human intelligence. But anyway, human likeness is a big no-go. The way to go is we want to build tools. Great, let's go build tools. We engineers, we build tools all the time. But the question here is then, what for is this tool, and who is going to benefit from this tool? I'm left-handed, and as a left-handed persons know, we cannot use scissors in the same way that right-handed people can use. So even a simple tool like scissors comes with benefits for many, but it's not usable for others. So who is going to benefit from these AI tools that we build are the questions we have to ask. Then maybe this is a more complex one. AI started basically as an attempt to simulate, to understand human intelligence by modeling human intelligence in computer terms. It was a simulation. Nowadays, AI is an active actor in the world. It takes interventions in the real world. The techniques, approaches, and requirements for simulations are different from the requirements for systems that are active intervening in the world. So which one do we want to go? And finally, maybe the most important of them, do we want AI to be normative, or do we want AI to be descriptive? Do we want it to be as us, and therefore describing the world as it is in the data with all the bias, all the prejudices, all the mistakes that we make? Or do we want AI to be better than us? If we want AI to be better than us, what is better? And who is going to determine that better is better? These are all questions that we need to address as we build the systems, as we look at the very fundamental technical and mathematical questions that we need to address. If we don't place AI in the world where it is going to be used, we risk to miss important contribution from what this world is about. Responsible AI, and I'm almost finishing, I think. It's not a choice. There is, especially again in policy making, there is this eternal discussion. We want to innovate, and therefore we cannot be responsible. We cannot have regulations. We just need all the space of the world to innovate, because otherwise we are missing something. If you tell exactly that to a car manufacturer and you tell them, please go innovate, but don't assume that cars need to have brakes, don't assume that cars need to have seat belts, don't assume that people need to have a driver's license to use those cars, and by the way, don't assume that there are any rules in the traffic, that cars can go in the right or in the left, and there is no rules at all. No one in the car industry would ever want to innovate anything or even to be there. Why we think that in AI we need all the freedom to go in all directions without no guidance in where we should go, it is a puzzle to me. So regulation, ethics, responsibility is not a burden in innovation. If anything, and if it put correctly, is a stepping stone for innovation. Innovation is not just the opportunity to do whatever we want. Innovation is the opportunity to move technology forward, and to know where we want to go forward, we need to have some idea of where we are. If we do AI responsibly, we really are not only working on the trustworthiness for the public and for those that are going to be affected by it, but also will support the transformation and business differentiation that many are looking for. At the same time, it's not a free letter to let regulators do whatever they want. regulation also needs to be designed. It's also an artifact like any other thing. Let's look at innovation and let's look at regulation as we look at innovation. Let's look at it with the different versions and try out the versions, the 4.1 and the 4.2 and whatever. Looking at it in a much more designed way, a much more engineered way, and to avoid the legal spaghetti that some countries are leading to. So putting this all together, I think that it's time we need to move to a new AI paradigm. Not a paradigm in which we have to, the more is better, that we need more data and more computational power, and increasingly moving in that direction, but a paradigm in which we understand that AI is not the solution to all our problems, that we recognize the limitations in what AI can be doing, ask ourselves why and should AI be used for what, addressing the all inherent risks of bias, discrimination, unfairness, and so on, because that comes from the reality in which we are. A paradigm that moves beyond disciplines, is not just about the technology, the most perfect technology that is not grounded in the reality, it will never really get us nowhere. But at the same time, we need to work much more on much more robust technologies, much more robust standards for this technology. Don't accept anything if you don't have the capabilities to ensure the verification and verifiability of what we are doing. If you don't have the capacity to lead with, to ensure that this technology is sustainable, and most importantly, that it's participatory, that all of us can contribute from our different parts. So AI is not an unstoppable force. It is shaped by our choice. And Yanis forgot this one. It's also an ACM conference on AI, ethics and society. I'm very happy that it will be organized by us in Sweden this year. And the COFA papers just came out yesterday or the day before. And I would like to welcome you to join us on this very important part of the ACM work that we do, which is exactly bridging between the technology and society where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. We will now have the floor open to answer a few questions.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yogesh,
I was running away already, sorry.
Thanks for the wonderful talk. A couple of quick questions. One is, when you talked about AI consuming a lot of computing and algorithms and data, right? Do you see the consumption of human capital as a challenge? Because half the students over here are probably doing a data science or an AI degree, right? And you have 10,000 plus papers submitted to NeurIPS and AAAI or CVPR, right?
Yeah.
Are we taking a lot of the human effort, of intellectual effort, and channelizing into something extremely narrow?
I'm not sure if it's extremely narrow. If you put it in this societal perspective, is a huge field. What maybe is too narrow in the way that we tend to teach AI, especially in engineering and computer science departments, is that we focus only on the improvement of the algorithm, the accuracy of the algorithm. The next paper will be proving that it's 0.05% before the one I had last year, and like this I can keep feeding NeurIPS and whatever with eternally with papers. That's maybe not the way we should do things. I think that there is an extremely perverse situation in academia at this moment, this publish or perish, which is not only in AI, unfortunately, but we do need to think, all of us seriously, is the tiny change in what we are doing really what the research and the use of our capital that we need, or do we need to do it more broader? Yeah.
A quick, broader question. I think everyone in this room will agree with all the things you talked about. But there's a sense of helplessness, right, in terms of achieving these things, right? So we've seen this over a decades-long period in social media and all the side effects of that, right? And that's happening in a much more accelerated pace right now, in an uncontrolled fashion, and with literally no seeming possibility of putting any checks to it, right? Do you see a way around it? Is it just us putting out policies as academics, or it to be sort of discarded, or is there a way to effect change?
There is definitely a way to effect change, and will be many of us next week in Delhi exactly trying to effect this change. It is not something which is done in a day. It's a huge long-term effort by a lot of people with a lot of, it's always 2 steps forward, 2 steps behind and a half step forward, and it's very, very slow how it goes. But in other hand, it's the stakes are too huge. We cannot just let it go and hope that someone else does it for us.
Hi, thanks ma'am, it's so nice. I'm Satya, I'm from Infosys. And the way you put in the question 0, I think that is great. I think that should be asked first when you go for responsibility. And my question is more towards that, the consumption part of it, which you have put in, about the water consumption and all, that is very striking. So how is it we are going to carry it into the policy, or maybe from the academics perspective? What's the best way to do that?
Okay, so like I said, also referred a bit, why do we use all this energy and water and so on? It's because we got to believe that the only way to do AI is to put all the data of the world in one place, or in 1 or 2 of these huge data centers, and by doing that we will have the only way forward to do AI. And what are we doing with this AI? We have all this huge amount of data, this huge amount of computing, and then we are building systems that are able to order a pizza or something like that. So maybe we need first to look at it like we did in computation 40, 50 years ago. How can we modularize what we do? How can we split and separate concerns in what we do? It's not just building, and when I start learning computing, all the programs that we did were one big thing. We start in the top of the screen, and you would write 20,000 lines, and that was the program. Nowadays, we don't program like this anymore. So we do need to move into a direction in which we can modularize AI, we can define different types of components, we can modularize the data that we have and the amount of computation that it's needed for that data. So we do need to move forward in the way that we are doing things, because it is not sustainable, and it's also not, cannot grow forever, this idea that we just need one bigger computing and center, and then that will solve and get us the next benefit in AI. Yeah, it would start by asking ourselves, as we build our algorithms, not just how much accurate they are, but how much computational power did we add to make this extra accuracy. Yeah. If I put 20% more effort to get 0.0% more accuracy, what am I doing? And we need to, this is things that we can ask ourselves and that we can teach our students. It is not accuracy in itself, or efficiency is not the issue if we don't take the costs into account. And those are measurable. It's easy to create the equation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. So basically, I wanted to think about responsibility from another perspective, which is the temporal perspective. So whatever models that we have right now have been trained on data that has been collected in the past. Eventually, I believe that we'll hit a bottleneck, architectural bottleneck, where these models will eventually start performing worse, or even if we fine-tune them, they're going to lose some information from the past, right? That is what I think is going to happen. So at that point, who do we assign the responsibility to in this scenario? And especially in cases which are critical, like cybersecurity, where data is evolving almost every day, and models are deteriorating at rates which are unprecedented.
Good question. So a lot of the deterioration comes from the approaches that we are taking. Maybe if we look at different approaches, the models will not deteriorate as quick as we are. But you raise an important issue, the issue of forgetting. And we assume that we only improve in the accuracy and the capabilities of a system if the system never forgets anything, so we keep all the data forever and ever and ever. But maybe I think that is one of the discussions we need to have. How should systems be able to forget? How are we going to use forgetting as a way to improve the quality of the system? And who is going to decide when or what to forget? Those are very important questions, but I fortunately don't have an answer for it. I agree.
That's right. Thank you.
Yes.
Hello. Is there a possibility that even though the data collection and the AI is responsible, that our regulations and governance might be irresponsible? For example, to do mass surveillance of communities, and that's a question.
So, we need to be responsible all over. It's not just being responsible about the technology. Of course, as engineers, as computer scientists, we have a bigger stake on the responsibility on developing technology, but the same applies for the developing of regulation, the developing of implementations, the developing of the ways that we are measuring impact. Like I say, we need to look at all of this in the same way that we look at technology, with an engineering perspective. That's maybe even harder to convince the social scientists and humanities that they can be engineers as well, than to convince the engineers that we need to be humanities as well. But we need to do it all over, because having the perfect technology to be used for the worst of intentions, that's also, of course, not being responsible.